Hello YouTube. I had originally made a couple videos on the subject of misophonia, but now I have a better cam that hopefully won't have too much of a choppy out of sync video, so I'm redoing the original videos with a few changes here and there. So I'm not the kind of guy who would normally make a YouTube video on account of my somewhat awkward social graces, which is made all the more difficult by my misophonia, the thing which of course I just made up as an excellent excuse for an attitude problem I could just change if I felt like it, evidently. Speaking of which, I'd like to address any naysayers on the subject, or just those particular hardcore religious people who like to pretend that there's no such thing as mental illness, because it doesn't fit in with their particular worldview. If you ever attempted to type something about misophonia, you've probably noticed that Microsoft Word doesn't even recognize misophonia as a word. I mean, Microsoft doesn't recognize a lot of things, but it's worth mentioning, I think. This condition has been so little studied enough to the point where only the advanced communications of the internet have just barely brought together enough people to make the condition known about at all beyond the very few people studying it directly. Even so, it's becoming more obvious to those looking into it just how much more widespread it is than previously thought, and how large the range of the condition's effect is as to how it manifests and to what magnitude it manifests in different personalities. But this is a modern society which understands for the most of the part that mental illness is not fake or caused by sin or demons, but rather by traumatic experiences, physical neurological disorders, injury, illness, etc. So why is it that when somebody says that something affects them to the point to where they can't hardly stand to be around it, so many people just fall back on the old assumption that it's just the result of somebody trying to get their way over yours? Or maybe they just like to complain or something, right? Or don't take this personally, but is it possible that you simply don't want to be inconvenienced about the issue? Is this issue worth talking about or working around, or maybe even spending some money on if it came down to it? Perhaps it feels like an attack on your right to continue doing what you're doing and making the noises you make, because after all, nobody else seems to have a problem with it, or at least that's the perception. And on the subject of perception, if I can pick an example here, I like motorcycles. I don't have a problem with them. My brother has one, and I might like to have one someday if it weren't for my ADHD, making me a little difficult on the road in terms of, paying attention and such. So don't think I have a problem with motorcycles or motorcyclists. But in talking about noise pollution, I'm sort of reminded of when those particular motorcyclists who have machines with modified pipes or just crappy mufflers don't seem to understand that on a nice spring or fall day or something, with people with their windows rolled down are going to practically get their ears put out by this freaking asshole flying down the road right next to them. And of course, if people around this person don't appreciate this guy's physical manifestation of ego, we can all just roll up our windows so that the one dude in the middle can keep being arrogant. In society, maybe we should just be tolerant even while others are not. However, this does not put the intolerant in a position of exoneration. Society is like a giant family, and becoming more so as communications improve, so that regardless of what family we're talking about here, whether close family or world family, it's being tolerant that allows people to even put up with each other at all. So this leads to the understanding that we are all tolerant to a degree, and those who get along better tend to be more tolerant. So now we have to recognize first and foremost that people who have misophonia deserve tolerance, considering that the condition can be validated above anything more than mere complaint mongering. So now we have to validate the condition, right? Is this person a complainer, or is this an odd something that could affect even the most down-to-earth, hard-nosed, put-up-with-anything or you're a weakling, drill sergeant type personality?